The night was cold. The sky was dark, filled with falling snow. The white ground stretched in every direction, empty and endless. In that frozen silence, a small figure moved slowly. It was a child, not a human child. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. She was not from this world. She was an alien orphan, alone, lost, weak. Her tiny hands trembled as she tried to wrap her arms around herself. She wore only thin clothes, not enough to fight against the freezing wind. Each breath came out as mist, floating for a second before vanishing into the night. The child's feet left small marks in the snow, but soon the wind erased them. It was as if the world wanted to hide her, to bury her existence. She stopped walking. Her legs were too tired. She had been wandering for hours. Her stomach was empty, her body shaking. She fell to her knees. Her lips moved, whispering softly in her own language. It was a call, a cry for her parents. But no one answered. Only the storm howled back, carrying her words into nothingness. The girl lay down in the snow. Her eyes were heavy. She thought of her mother's face, of her father's voice. But those were only memories now. They had been taken away by the war, by the humans, by the endless fighting she never understood. Her small body curled up. Snowflakes touched her face. She wanted to close her eyes forever. Maybe if she slept, she would see her family again. Maybe she would dream of warmth. The storm grew louder. The darkness pressed closer. And then, footsteps. At first, she thought it was only her imagination. But no, it was real. Crunch. Crunch. Someone was walking toward her. Slow, heavy steps breaking the silence of the snowy field. The child's heart beat faster. Fear replaced her weakness. She tried to lift her head. Through the blur of snow, she saw a shadow. A tall figure. Broad shoulders. Long coat, a human, her breath caught. Terror filled her small chest. Humans were dangerous. Humans were killers. She had been told stories since she was little. Humans had started the war. Humans had burned her village. Humans had destroyed everything. She wanted to crawl away, but her body was too weak. She could not move. The figure came closer. The snow cleared just enough for her to see his face. It was rough, scarred, tired. His eyes were dark but not empty. He stopped when he saw her. His gaze softened for a moment. The child froze. Would he hurt her? Would he finish what the war had started? But then something unexpected happened. The human removed his coat. A thick, heavy coat still warm from his body. Slowly he bent down and placed it over the little alien girl. The warmth spread through her body. She blinked in confusion. This was not what she had imagined. No soldier would waste his coat on an enemy child. Yet here he was, covering her with his only shield against the cold. The human knelt beside her. His breath was heavy, but his voice was calm. "You'll freeze out here," he said softly. Of course, she did not understand his words. But she understood his tone, gentle, protective. The girl stared at him with wide eyes. Her people had called humans monsters. But this man, he was not acting like a monster. He extended his hand, slowly, careful not to scare her. His glove was worn, the fingers cracked, but the gesture was clear. He was offering help. Her mind raced. Should she trust him? Should she take the hand of an enemy? Her body shook. She wanted to live. She wanted warmth. Her small fingers reached out, trembling, and touched his hand. The human gripped gently, pulling her up from the snow. She swayed on her feet, almost falling again, but his arm held her steady. For the first time that night, the alien child felt safe. But in the distance, hidden by the storm, lights moved. Shadows of other soldiers, enemies searching the night. The girl did not see them yet. The human did. His eyes narrowed. He pulled her close and whispered something to himself. The snow kept falling. The wind kept howling. But now the night was no longer empty. It carried a secret, a bond between two enemies, a soldier and an orphan, both broken, both lost, both about to face something far greater than the storm. And so the story began. The storm still raged across the white field. Snowflakes spun in the air like tiny knives cutting through the night. The alien child stood close to the human soldier, wrapped in his heavy coat. Her small body shook not only from the cold but also from fear. She looked up at him. His face was lined with scars, old wounds that told stories she could not understand. His eyes were tired, like someone who had carried too much pain for too long. He looked down at her, and for a moment their gazes locked. The child's heart pounded. Her people had called humans destroyers, killers, monsters of war, and yet this man had placed his own coat on her shoulders. He had not raised a weapon. He had not shouted. He had only offered warmth. The soldier slowly bent down, lowering himself to her height. His breath made clouds in the air. He spoke quietly. She did not know his language, but the sound was calm, almost gentle. "You'll be all right now," he whispered. The girl tilted her head. She could not understand the words, but she felt the meaning. She blinked at him, her glowing eyes filled with both fear and wonder. The human reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small piece of dried bread, broken and rough. He held it out. The child hesitated. Was this a trick? She sniffed it, then slowly, carefully took a bite. Her stomach tightened with hunger, and soon she finished every crumb. The soldier gave a faint smile. For a second, the snowstorm seemed less harsh, but their moment of quiet was broken. From far away came a sharp sound, voices carried by the wind. The human soldier's head snapped around. His eyes narrowed. He recognized the sound. Soldiers, not human soldiers. Alien voices. They were searching. The little girl stiffened. She knew those voices. They were her own people. But she also knew what they would do if they found her with a human. They would not forgive her. They would not forgive him. The soldier moved quickly. He placed a finger on his lips, a clear sign for silence. Then he crouched, picking her up with strong arms. She gasped softly but did not resist. The warmth of his body shielded her from the wind as he carried her into the shadows. They moved fast, leaving no clear trail in the snow. The human's boots pressed deep into the white ground, but the storm covered the tracks almost as soon as they were made. He searched for shelter with sharp eyes, scanning the ruins scattered across the frozen land. At last he found a half-broken wall, the remains of an old outpost. He slid behind it, kneeling with the child in his arms. The wind howled above them, but the voices were closer now. The girl clutched his coat tightly. Her glowing eyes widened with fear. Would they be found? The soldier held her close, steadying his breath. He knew how to hide. He had done this many times in war, waiting for enemies to pass. But this time it was different. This time he was not hiding for himself alone. The alien patrol moved across the field. Their lights cut through the snow, searching, hunting. One beam passed close, almost touching the broken wall. The girl's tiny hands gripped the soldier's sleeve so hard her nails scratched the fabric. She wanted to cry out, but he gently pressed his hand over her mouth. Not harshly, not cruelly, just enough to remind her to stay quiet. His eyes told her everything. Trust me, the soldiers passed. Their voices faded into the storm. The light beams disappeared into the dark distance. The child slowly breathed out. She looked up at the human. He was still watching the horizon, his jaw tight, his shoulders tense. Only when the danger was gone did he relax slightly. He lowered his hand from her mouth. She whispered something in her language. He didn't understand, but the sound was soft, almost like a thank you. The soldier gave a small nod, though he could not know her meaning. Minutes passed in silence. The storm began to quiet, the snow falling softer. The man looked at her again. He had questions in his eyes. Who was this child? Why was she alone? Why had no one come for her? But questions could wait, for now survival came first. He stood and offered his hand again. This time she did not hesitate. Her small hand slipped into his gloved one. Together they stepped out from behind the ruins. The night stretched before them, vast and dangerous. But neither was alone anymore. For the first time, the child felt a strange thing growing inside her chest. Hope. And for the soldier, something he thought he had lost long ago returned quietly, without words, purpose. The snow swallowed their figures as they walked deeper into the night. Somewhere ahead lay safety. Somewhere ahead lay danger. But one thing was certain. Their story was only just beginning. The snowstorm had weakened, but the cold was still sharp. The human soldier walked carefully through the white wasteland, the little alien girl holding his hand. Her steps were small and shaky. Sometimes she stumbled, but he never let her fall. His grip was strong, steady, like a wall that refused to break. They did not speak. They could not. Different worlds, different tongues. Yet there was something in the silence, a new language born without words. The girl would look up at him, her glowing eyes questioning, afraid and curious. He would glance down and with just a nod calm her fears. She understood him without understanding his words. That was the start of their silent bond. The soldier's mind was restless. He had fought for years, seen too many faces disappear into the dirt. He had learned not to care, not to feel. But this child had broken through his armor without trying. He thought of his own daughter. Long gone, lost to the war. For a moment he almost felt as if this alien girl was pulling him back to a time before death and loss, a time when his heart had not been a stone. The girl, meanwhile, wondered why this human was different. She had been told humans had no kindness, that they destroyed, they burned, they took. But this one had given her his coat. This one had carried her, hidden her, fed her. Could it be that her people were wrong? Or was this soldier simply unlike the others? They stopped at a broken hut. The roof was half gone, the walls cracked, but it was shelter. The soldier pushed open what was left of the door. The inside smelled of smoke and old wood. He let her in. The girl sat near a corner, hugging the coat around herself. The soldier searched his bag, pulling out a small tool. Sparks flew as he struck it. Soon a small flame grew into a fire. Orange light filled the dark hut. Shadows danced across the walls. The girl's eyes widened. Warmth. Real warmth. She moved closer, stretching her hands toward the fire. Her shivers slowed. For the first time in many nights, she felt safe. The soldier sat opposite her, watching her carefully. He reached into his pack again, pulling out a small metal cup. He melted snow in it, warming it by the fire until it became water. He offered it to her. She took it slowly, her little hands touching the metal. She drank, the liquid soothing her dry throat. When she was done, she gave the cup back and whispered something in her language. It was quiet, but soft, almost like gratitude. The soldier gave a slight smile, though he did not know the words. Hours passed. Outside, the storm faded. The world became quieter, but the silence inside the hut was different. It was alive, filled with unspoken things. The girl lay down by the fire. Her eyelids grew heavy. But before she closed her eyes fully, she saw the soldier take out something from his pocket. A small photo. Old, worn, edges torn. It showed a human woman and a child. The soldier stared at it for a long time, his face soft with sadness. The alien girl tilted her head, curious. She pointed at the photo. The soldier looked up, surprised. Then slowly he turned the picture so she could see. He tapped the smaller figure, the child in the photo. He placed his hand over his chest, right where his heart was. The alien girl blinked. She understood, at least partly. This was his family. A daughter. Gone. Something stirred inside her. A strange ache. She had lost her family too. In that moment she realized the truth. Pain was not only hers. Pain was also his. She crawled closer and touched his hand gently. Her skin was soft and cold against his rough glove. She whispered a single word again, the same she had said before. Family. The soldier did not understand the word, but he understood her eyes. He nodded slowly. For a brief moment they were no longer human and alien, no longer enemies. Just two broken souls finding warmth in the same fire. But peace never lasted long in war. Outside, a sound broke the stillness. Crunching snow, heavy boots. Not one pair, many. The soldier stiffened. His hand moved to his weapon. The girl sat up, her eyes wide with fear. Voices echoed in the night. Alien soldiers again, moving closer, their lights shining through cracks in the hut's walls. The soldier whispered something under his breath, standing tall. His shadow stretched across the wall like a giant. He pointed to the back of the hut, where a hole in the wall opened into the dark. A path to escape. The girl shook her head, refusing to leave him. Her small hands clutched his sleeve. The soldier looked at her with eyes hard but kind. He gently pushed her toward the hole. She understood his meaning even without words. You must live. The sound of approaching soldiers grew louder. The girl's heart pounded. Would they be discovered? Would this fragile bond end tonight? She hesitated at the hole, looking back one last time. The soldier gave her a faint smile. A father's smile. Then the lights flashed against the hut's broken door. Shadows moved outside. The hunt was about to reach them. And so, the fire between them burned bright even as danger closed in. The hut shook with every gust of wind. Snow pressed against the cracked walls, but the true danger was not the storm. It was the voices outside. The alien soldiers were close now. Their boots crunched against the ice, heavy and sharp. Their searchlights cut across the night like spears. The little girl crouched low by the fire, her glowing eyes wide with fear. The human soldier stood over her, silent and tense, his hand tight on his weapon. They could hear the aliens talking in their harsh language. The girl understood. They were looking for her. They had orders. Find the lost child. No mistakes. Bring her back or destroy her if she is with the enemy. Her small chest rose and fell quickly. She wanted to scream, to run, but she looked at the soldier. His calm eyes held her still. He raised a finger to his lips. Silence. The wooden door creaked. A shadow passed outside. The beam of a light slid across the cracks in the wall, stopping just inches from the soldier's face. He did not move. He did not even breathe. The little girl clutched the coat he had given her. Her tiny hands trembled. If they were found, both would die. The soldier lowered himself slowly, crouching beside her. He whispered only one word, quiet and firm. She did not know its meaning, but she felt it in his tone. Trust. Then he pointed to the back hole in the hut, the hidden escape. The girl shook her head. Her glowing eyes pleaded with him. She did not want to leave him behind. But the soldier pressed his hand gently against her shoulder, guiding her toward the hole. His face was steady, strong. The door rattled again. The aliens were testing it, pushing. Soon they would enter. The girl crawled toward the hole, her small body slipping into the darkness behind the hut. The snow outside was deep, almost swallowing her whole. She turned once, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark, watching the human soldier. He stood tall now, his back straight, weapon ready. He was not running. He was staying to fight. The child's heart broke with fear, but she obeyed. She pushed herself deeper into the snow, crawling away from the hut. Inside, the door burst open. Light spilled in, blinding against the fire's glow. Alien soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. The human soldier did not flinch. Stay where you are, one alien shouted in their tongue. The girl, hidden outside, heard it clearly. She pressed her hands over her mouth to stop herself from crying out. The soldier raised his weapon slowly, but he did not fire. He let them step closer, closer, until their lights were almost on his face. Then, with one swift movement, he struck. A flash of sound. A burst of fire. One soldier fell. Another shouted. Chaos filled the hut. The girl covered her ears as the night exploded with noise. Fire, shouting, breaking wood. The battle was fierce. Shadows danced wildly against the snow as the fight raged inside. She wanted to run back to help him, but she was too small. Too weak. All she could do was hide, her heart pounding like a drum. The fight did not last long. Silence returned, broken only by the storm. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Was he gone? Then a figure emerged from the broken doorway. The human soldier. His face was hard, his coat torn, but he was alive. He carried wounds, blood marked his sleeve, but his steps were steady. The girl ran to him, her small legs stumbling in the snow. She crashed into him, hugging his waist tightly. The soldier froze for a moment, then slowly lowered a hand to her head, resting it gently. No words were needed. The bond between them was stronger now, but the danger was not over. In the distance, more lights flickered. More soldiers were coming. The gunfire had given them a trail. The soldier looked down at the girl. He could not fight an army, not while protecting her. They needed to move. He picked her up once again, wrapping her tightly in his coat. Her glowing eyes peeked out from the folds of fabric as he carried her into the storm. The snow swallowed them as they moved through the ruins, shadows chasing from behind. The night became a maze of white and dark. Broken buildings rose like skeletons in the snow, sharp edges against the sky. The soldier moved quickly, hiding between walls, slipping through cracks, always listening for the enemy. The girl stayed quiet in his arms, her little hands holding onto him tightly. She could hear his heart pounding, strong and steady. Every beat told her one thing. He will not let me go. They reached a deep trench half buried by snow. The soldiers slid down carefully, pressing against the wall of ice. Above, the patrol lights crossed the land, but they did not see. For now, they were hidden. The girl leaned her head against his chest, finally letting her eyes close. She was exhausted, but for the first time, she did not feel alone in her fear. The soldier looked at her, his jaw set. He had made a choice without words. She was no longer just a lost alien child. She was his responsibility, his promise. The storm raged on, but inside the trench the fire of survival burned. The hunt was not over. The dark still pressed close. But as long as he carried her, as long as she held on, there was still hope. And so the soldier and the orphan moved deeper into the night, hunted but unbroken. The trench carried them far into the ruins, its walls of ice shielding them from the enemy lights above. The storm had slowed, but the cold grew sharper, biting into skin and bone. The human soldier's breath came out in heavy clouds as he carried the alien child in his arms. She was shivering again. Her glowing eyes fluttered, half closing with exhaustion. The coat around her small body kept her alive, but not enough. The soldier knew she needed warmth, real warmth, or she would not last the night. His steps quickened. He scanned the broken horizon, searching. Finally he saw it, an abandoned human outpost half buried in snow. The walls were cracked, the roof tilted, but it was shelter. A place with memories of war, but maybe also a chance for life. The soldier pushed open the frozen door. It groaned loudly, echoing in the silence. He stepped inside, careful, listening for danger. But the place was empty. Dust and frost covered everything. Old supplies lay broken in corners. The fire pit in the center was cold, filled with ashes from battles long past. He lowered the girl to the ground gently. Her knees folded as she sat, clutching the coat tighter around herself. She looked around the dark room with tired eyes. To her, this broken place felt almost like a home, because it had walls, a roof, and maybe even warmth. The soldier crouched near the fire pit. He pulled tools from his bag, flint, dry cloth, pieces of old wood. His hands worked quickly, striking spark after spark. The girl hugged herself, her small breaths turning white in the air, waiting. Finally, fire bloomed. Orange light spread across the walls, pushing back the shadows. The girl's eyes widened as she leaned closer. The warmth touched her face, melting the frost on her cheeks. She stretched out her hands, smiling faintly for the first time. The soldier watched her quietly. Something in her expression reminded him of his daughter, the way a child's eyes could glow when they felt safe. His chest tightened, but he forced himself to look away. The girl sat close to the flames, her glowing eyes reflecting the light. She whispered something in her own tongue, words the soldier could not understand, but the sound was soft, almost like a prayer. She touched her small fingers to her chest, then pointed at him as if trying to say something. The soldier raised an eyebrow. He didn't reply. Instead, he reached into his pack again and pulled out another piece of dried bread. He broke it in half, giving the larger piece to her. She accepted it eagerly, nibbling carefully at first, then faster as hunger overtook her. When she finished, she licked her lips and gave him a shy look, almost like a thank you. He gave her a small nod in return. For the first time since the war began, the soldier let himself rest. He leaned back against the wall, staring at the fire. The girl, still weak, shifted closer until she was sitting against his arm. She did not ask for permission. She simply trusted. At first he stiffened, but then slowly he relaxed. He let her lean against him. The fire warmed them both, and for a moment the world outside, the war, the hunters, the storm, did not exist. The silence between them was not empty now. It was full of a bond growing without words. The soldier pulled something from his pocket, the old photo. The girl noticed again. This time she crawled onto his lap, pointing at it. He hesitated, then showed her. The picture of a smiling woman and a little girl. His family. The alien orphan touched the photo carefully, her glowing eyes soft. She whispered one word. Family. He did not know the word, but he understood. He placed his hand over his chest, then gently tapped her small hand. She smiled weakly. They sat together like that, staring at the fire, sharing pain without speaking. But peace was fragile. A sound outside broke the calm. The crunch of snow. Heavy steps. The soldier's head snapped up. His hand reached for his weapon. The girl froze, fear returning instantly. Voices carried faintly through the broken walls. Alien soldiers again. They were close, their lights flickering through the cracks. The soldier quickly kicked snow over the fire, dimming its glow. Shadows filled the room once more. He pulled the girl close, holding her against his chest. She buried her face in his coat, her small hands gripping tightly. The soldier's eyes narrowed as he listened. The footsteps moved past. For now, the patrol had not found them. He waited. Silent. Still. Only when the voices faded into the storm did he allow himself to breathe again. The girl peeked up at him, her glowing eyes wet with tears. She whispered again, her voice trembling. He didn't understand the words, but he wiped the tears from her cheeks with his rough hand. He gave her a look that said, "I am here. You are safe." The girl pressed her forehead against his chest. Slowly, she drifted into sleep, her breath soft and even. The soldier sat awake, guarding the fireless room. His eyes stayed on the doorway, his ears sharp for danger. But deep inside, something had changed. This child was no longer just a burden to carry. She was no longer just an orphan lost in the snow. She was his responsibility, his second chance, his fragile hope in a world of ashes. The storm howled outside and enemies roamed the dark. But within the walls of the ruined outpost, something else burned quietly. A promise. The night stretched long inside the ruined outpost. The fire was gone, but its warmth still lingered faintly in the air. The little alien girl slept beside the human soldier, her small body curled under his coat. She breathed softly, the rise and fall of her chest steady. The soldier did not sleep. His eyes stayed open, scanning the cracks in the wall, watching for movement outside. His ears caught every sound: the wind, the groan of wood, the distant hum of patrol ships searching the skies. But when he looked down at the child beside him, something softened in his face. She looked so fragile, so breakable, and yet she had survived storms, hunger, and the hunt of her own people. There was strength in her, though she did not know it yet. Hours passed. The storm outside weakened, and pale morning light bled through the cracks. The girl stirred, rubbing her glowing eyes. She sat up slowly, blinking at the dim light inside the hut. Her gaze fell on the soldier. He was sitting against the wall, his rifle resting on his lap. His head was bowed, but his eyes were open. He looked exhausted. The girl tilted her head. She remembered the photo he had shown her. Carefully, she pointed at his chest, then whispered a single word again: "Family." The soldier looked up, meeting her eyes. He didn't know her language, but he understood. Slowly, almost hesitantly, he pulled the photo from his pocket again. The girl crawled closer, sitting beside him. She studied the faces in the picture. The smiling woman, the little human child. She touched it softly, as if she feared the paper would break. She pointed at the smaller figure in the photo, then at herself. Her meaning was simple: I am like her. The soldier's throat tightened. His eyes burned for a moment, but no tears fell. He nodded slowly, placing the photo back inside his pocket. Then he did something unexpected. He reached into the dust beside him and drew a shape in the dirt with his finger. A circle with two smaller circles inside. A crude drawing of 3 people holding hands. The girl's glowing eyes widened. She understood. Her lips trembled. She bent down and added her own mark in the dirt beside his drawing. A tiny, glowing fingerprint. The soldier stared at it, silent. For the first time in years, his heart felt alive again. But truth could not stay hidden forever. The girl pressed her hands together and began to speak softly in her own tongue. Her words were broken, but her voice carried sorrow. She pointed to the sky, then to her heart. She spoke of war, of fire, of loss. Though he did not understand her words, the soldier listened carefully. Her gestures painted a picture. Her village burning, soldiers storming in, her parents taken away. She had run, but no one had followed. She had been alone ever since. The soldier's jaw tightened. He had seen this story before. Different places, different faces, but always the same. Innocence caught in the fire of war. The girl's voice cracked as she whispered one last word in her language. A name, perhaps? Her mother's. Her father's. She pressed her face into her hands, small shoulders shaking. The soldier hesitated, then placed a hand gently on her back. She leaned into him without fear. Their silence spoke louder than words, but the truth had more than one side. The soldier closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he reached for the ashes near the fire pit. With the end of a stick, he began to draw again on the floor. First, he sketched a tall figure in armor, a soldier, and beside it a smaller figure, a child. He pointed at the child, then at himself. His meaning was clear. I had a daughter. The girl's glowing eyes widened. The soldier added another figure, a woman. Then he drew flames. He pressed the stick hard into the dirt, breaking the picture apart. The girl understood. His family was gone too, taken by the same endless war. She reached out and touched the broken drawing, then looked up at him with tears in her eyes. She whispered the word again, louder this time. Family. The soldier stared at her. Slowly, he nodded. For a brief moment, the outpost was not a place of ruin. It was a place of healing. Two souls from different worlds, both scarred, both broken, finding comfort in each other's pain. But the world outside did not care about healing. A sharp sound cracked the air. The soldier stiffened. His ears caught it instantly, the hum of engines. He moved to the broken window and looked out. In the distance, ships were moving across the sky. Alien ships. Their light scanned the land below like predators searching for prey. The girl joined him, clutching his arm. Her glowing eyes widened in fear. She knew what those ships meant. If they were found, there would be no mercy. The soldier's jaw tightened. He checked his weapon. He was running out of bullets. He could not fight an army. He looked down at the girl. She was staring at him, waiting, trusting, believing. He placed his hand on her head, steady and firm. His eyes told her what words could not. I will protect you. Always. The girl nodded, her fear turning into silent courage. The truth was clear now. They were not enemies. They were not strangers. They were survivors bound by something greater than war. The storm outside was fading, but a larger storm was coming. Together, they stepped away from the fire's ashes and prepared for the dawn. Whatever waited for them in the light, rescue, death, or something beyond, they would face it not as human and alien, but as family. The pale sun rose over the frozen land. Its weak light spilled across the ruins, painting the snow in shades of silver and blue. The storm had ended, but the silence that followed was heavy. It was not peace. It was the quiet before danger. The human soldier stood near the broken wall of the outpost, his weapon in hand. Beside him, the little alien girl clung to his coat. Her glowing eyes watched the sky, wide with fear. Above them, alien ships circled. Their engines rumbled like thunder, scanning the ground below. Beams of light swept across the ruins, searching, hunting. The soldier knew it was only a matter of time before they were found. He was wounded, tired, and his bullets were almost gone. But he also knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would not let them take the child. He crouched down to her level. His rough, scarred hand rested on her shoulder. She looked up at him, trembling. He pointed toward the horizon where the snowfields stretched endless and white. Beyond them lay forest caves, maybe even human survivors. A chance. The girl shook her head. She did not want to leave him. Her tiny hands clutched his sleeve tightly. She whispered a word in her tongue, her voice breaking. Family. The soldier's chest tightened. He wanted to tell her she was right, that she was his family now. But words failed. Instead, he placed his hand over his heart, then touched her small hand. She understood. A sound split the air, shouts in the alien language. Soldiers were close. Their boots crunched in the snow outside. The soldier's eyes hardened. He stood tall, weapon ready. He glanced back at the girl and pointed to a narrow hole in the wall behind them. It led out to the trench, the same path they had used before. Her head shook again, tears filling her eyes. He knelt once more, his gaze firm but kind. His hand brushed her cheek gently, wiping the tears away. His eyes told her everything. You must live. For a long moment she did not move. Then slowly, painfully, she obeyed. She crawled toward the hole, looking back one last time. The soldier gave her a faint smile. Not of joy, but of promise. The door crashed open. Enemy soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. The human fired. The hut exploded with sound. Gunfire, shouting, the clash of war. The girl crawled into the trench, her body shaking. She covered her ears, her glowing eyes wide with terror. Behind her, the battle raged. Every shot echoed like thunder in her chest. She wanted to run back. She wanted to scream his name, though she didn't even know it. But she remembered his eyes, his order without words. Survive, so she ran. Her small legs carried her through the trench, deeper into the snow. The soldier fought with everything he had. His bullets struck true, his movements sharp and precise. But there were too many. He took hits, his body weakening, yet he refused to fall. Every second he held them back was another second the girl could escape. At last, the gun clicked empty. No more bullets. The soldier dropped it, pulling his knife. His breath came heavy, his vision blurred, but he stood unbroken. They swarmed him. He fought like a storm, but even storms burn out. The girl reached the edge of the trench, the horizon stretching wide before her. She stopped, turning back. Smoke rose from the ruins. The sound of fighting faded. Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She knew. Deep inside, she knew. The man who had saved her, who had given her warmth, food, and hope, he was gone. Her knees buckled. She fell into the snow, her small hands pressed against her face. Her sobs echoed in the empty land. But then, she remembered. His coat wrapped around her shoulders, his photo of family, his hand on her head, steady and strong, his eyes telling her, live. Slowly, painfully, she stood. She wiped her tears with trembling fingers. She pulled the coat tighter around herself and she walked. Each step forward was heavy, but she kept going. The snow stretched endless, but she did not stop. The human soldier's shadow walked with her in memory, guiding her. For the first time, she was not just a lost orphan. She was the carrier of a promise. She whispered softly to the wind, her voice weak but certain. Family. Far above, the alien ships turned away, their engines fading into the distance. They did not see her. She was only one small figure in an endless white field. But she carried something greater than armies, hope. Hope that one day humans and aliens might not be enemies. Hope that kindness could survive even in the coldest of nights. Hope that sacrifice could light the path forward. The little girl kept walking, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. Behind her lay war. Ahead of her lay the unknown. But in her heart burned the fire of a soldier who had chosen mercy over hatred. The story of a bond that should never have existed, and the promise of a tomorrow where even enemies could become family.